All right, everyone. Welcome to an emergency episode of Around the Bird Bath. I'm joined by Rylan. I do want to just get out the right away and preface that I am at the house. My wife's working, so I have the kids. So we'll see how many times we get interrupted. But it wouldn't be an emergency podcast without getting interrupted by kids or animals or whatnot. But Rylan, obviously, we're here to talk about the very exciting comeback win for UTSA against DBU that, not only gets them off to a 6-0 start, best start in program history, secures the series against DBU, but just the comeback. Mainly, I mean, when I was thinking about it and I was like, do we need an emergency podcast or not? Like, if they won like 5-2, 5-3, whatever, it's like, we'll just talk about it in the recap. But I mean, that eighth inning on both sides kind of, made it so it's worthy of an emergency podcast, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And it was kind of going to the way that Hallmark had wanted it to go, right? It got him to a spot where he can get Qualia in there at the top of the eighth inning. And then Qualia just wasn't as sharp as Hallmark had expected him to be. He wanted him to see in a high pressure situation, and he just kind of wasn't able to get it done, which led to, giving up the 3 runs. But the UTSA offense, they responded, and that's such a good sign. And that's one thing that you really want to see from your team in a high pressure situations against a really good team is when one side of the ball falters, how does the other side, respond? And they responded with 6 innings in the bottom of the 8th, and it was just electric. Roadrunner Field was going crazy. Everybody was screaming. Even I was screaming. I was right next to the UTSA dugout, and I started feeding off the energy. My boy JB was screaming, so I had to I was feeling some type of way about myself, but it was electric, and it was complimentary baseball to the highest degree, and it's what you want to see in your team. And I'm glad it revealed itself against a high quality opponent like it did today.
Yeah, I mean, you knew, like, I think you tweeted out like an hour before the game, wind's blowing in. We had heard that was a possibility before the series even started. So you knew it was just going to be one of those games where the opportunities weren't going to be a lot, at least from a power standpoint, or a 2-run home run or a 3-run home run. And so then you see it kind of like a lot of opportunities for UTSA, and then they start to just not deliver them all, and then DBU kind of puts that 8th inning together. I'll be honest, I mean, complete transparency, I was feeling a little deflated after that 8th inning kind of got away from them a little bit. I was happy to see Qualia kind of face some adversity, and it would be interesting to see. Like, he seems like the type of guy that I don't think he's gonna, I think he's gonna respond fine to that. I think it's gonna be a good learning moment. That's one thing we wanted to see with the freshman was throw him in the flames a little bit. Qualia and Gutierrez both kind of get an opportunity there, and it goes okay, for both of them. Could have been better. And I'm going to tie that back in a little bit to some, still underclassmen, but some more leaders on the team. But, I think too, I mean, I was looking back because I wanted to kind of go through the play-by-play here in a minute of that bottom of the 8th, but I pulled up my Twitter because the play-by-play on Go UTSA wasn't available yet. And I forgot that 8th inning, the top of the 8th, the way it finally ended was just kind of a little confusion with, Josh Arquette looked like he snagged it, and then they doubled him up, and then they said, no, he just kind of trapped it. And then Gunnar Brown gets out of it. But, it was just a 3-run deficit, but it could have been a lot worse for UTSA. Gunnar Brown comes in, and I mean, him coming in, he had a not so great outing on Tuesday, comes back and kind of gets him out of the jam. Huge opportunity there. So
Yeah, and that's what Hallmark mentioned last time Gunnar Brown made an appearance is we need him to be sharp. And he came in, and like you said, there was some confusion on that play with Arquette. I actually didn't get to see it because I was switching sides trying to take pictures of Brown, and it happened while I was by the concession stand. So I didn't know what happened, but regardless, Gunnar Brown was still able to do what he was asked to do and get out of that inning, and he got the win for it. So it's the second win on the season. So I'm so happy for him. He's battling through some stuff right now, but he went out there and he executed, and that's a large part of the reason why UTSA won today.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, we'll get into that eighth or the six run bottom of the eighth. Prior to the eighth inning, I think UTSA had like 11 or 12 runners left on base. I mean, I know they had 15 for the game. They did leave the bases loaded in the eighth, even after they scored 6 runs. Just one of those moments where, man, they've had so many opportunities in such a tight game with the weather or the wind conditions. Like, are you gonna look back on this one and be like, man, this is the one that got away? And then what's also crazy is, and I think I actually was reminded of this looking at your post game recap that you posted on the Paisano Sports, was when Jacob Silva came up, they hadn't scored any runs yet, and there was 2 outs. So that whole run they went on was all with 2 outs.
Yeah. And that's why I tweeted. I was like, Jacob Silva, show me something here. And he
Yeah.
did. He did. He came through in the biggest moment, and they just fed off that energy, and that's how they ended up winning. Obviously, right? The RBI single got everything started, and everything just started to follow. Patriots pitcher JT Long, I think is his name, just completely crumbled after that. And he walked a couple guys. He hit Diego Diaz. I know that for sure. And the Caden Miller walk was so electric. I mean, he was screaming for about 10 seconds straight. Like Caden Miller was on one today. I tweeted it. It was the Caden Miller. Every time I looked up, he was making a snag, or he was bobbling a
Yeah.
catch and making a play or tagging someone out at first. He was just on one today. But that eighth inning was electric. A JB slide too after the Detlefson. I think it was a single. It was just electric, and it wouldn't happen without Jacob Silva coming in clutch with 2 outs.
No, absolutely. And I think, like, you mentioned Caden Miller, like that at bat. Like I was tweeting about it too. And we've seen Caden Miller and JB draw those walks, and it was such an interesting shift in just the baseball universe, or just the whatever you want to call it, because at the top of the eighth, you saw kind of some of the young guns for UTSA start to the moment kind of got to them a little bit, and you saw the veteran senior laden team like DBU kind of exploit that, like just like what Hallmark said he was going to do, or they were going to do, exploit every weakness. And it was like a moment where it's like, and I even mentioned this to some people that I was talking to about the game and stuff. It's like, this is the difference between kind of a newer, younger team versus a very veteran team. And then it flipped in the bottom half, and it's like DBU was the one, as you mentioned, that was like the pitchers were crumbling, they couldn't hit their zone, they were hidden guys, like, and then Caden comes up, and he almost cleared the bases like 2 pitches before, like, I mean, within maybe a foot,
Yeah.
2 feet down the right field line, and that would have been crazy enough. But then draws the walk, and I think that's what I was going to bring up. You saw Qualia and Gutierrez kind of struggle a little bit. Gutierrez not so much. He was more brought in there for a situation, and then they switched, went to Gunner. But I think it was such an interesting moment where you had the 2 freshmen kind of struggle a little bit. So you kind of saw that moment, and one thing I talked to Coach Hallmark about last summer was, I was curious to see like how JB and Caden were going to grow up and continue to grow. And so I'll be interested now to see like what those guys and Andrew Stuckey and some of the more veteran guys on the roster, how they can kind of take Qualia and Gutierrez under their wing, and those guys can learn from that moment. And then the next time it might be them getting us out of the jam, or getting the out, or whatever. Just that's the thing about college baseball. I mean, it's such a long season, and there's so many opportunities. Like, yeah, you want to win these big games, and I mean, it helps that UTSA came out on the right side of this one, but you're going to have some where they don't, or you're going to have some where maybe this happens to UTSA. But for now, it's kind of like you kind of starting in that mindset, like, well, what can't these guys come back from?
100%. And this is what we talked about on the pod before. It's like, how are these guys going to step up as leaders? And when I talked about it before, I think maybe I was kind of confining it to just, hey, like, speak to the younger guys in the dugout, like, hey, we need you right here. But instead, it was more of an example. They led by example, right? The Qualia and Gutierrez struggled, and Miller and Jordan Bain came out there and they just did it. They just showed them like we're leaders on this team and we're gonna go out there and we're gonna get this lead back for you. You can falter and we will, still be able to come out with a win. And you know what? Something I want to touch on too in that moment, having JT in the dugout is just so invaluable. He was talking to Miller throughout that whole at bat. Miller, you're better than him. Forget the last pitch. Like, you're better than him. New approach. Same thing. Like, let's do it. And then you ended up getting the walk. And just having that, some of that he played with last year and now in sort of like a coaching mentor role, it's just so invaluable. And this team, their connectedness is on another level. And I think, honestly, that connectedness and that rapport is the reason that they were able to win this game.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I do want to, I do have to go back and make a small change. Is there was, when Silva came up, there was just one out. I was looking back at my tweets because Johnson had that sac fly that is what tied the game. So, but still, I mean, so many times throughout where they had an opportunity to cancel, to take the lead or extend the lead, whatever, and they just couldn't come through. And then they finally did it there and finally brought some of those runs in. And then Drew Detlefs in, the 2-run double, I think.
I don't think he cleared him.
Yeah, probably didn't clear him, but just the big hit. Finally made him pay for the bases loaded opportunities and finally delivered that hit. There's only so many walks, so many hit by pitches, and obviously that gave him the lead for good. So that was great to see.
Yeah, I had to update my story too because I could have swore it was 2 outs as well, but it was just 1 out. I just double checked that right now, so that's my bad. I should have had that, but regardless, 1 out, 2 outs, it was still clutch and to deliver in that moment, right? He's a newcomer. He's not a freshman, but he's an incoming transfer, and Stuckey has that primary catcher role, but for Silva to come in and deliver that hit in such a big game, probably the biggest game. I mean, obviously the biggest game of his UTSA career so far. It was outstanding, and then just the rest of the team, built off of that. Detlefson, dude's clutch. Dude's always been clutch. He's arguably our best bat. I think you could say that it's either him or Miller at this point. Josh Arquette's making a case for that too, but just I think the inning spoke. The whole 8th inning, top to bottom, just spoke about the character of this team and really kind of gave you an example of what their identity is they're going to have each other's back. They're going to play through adversity. And we hadn't seen that obviously before this series because, you played South Dakota State and you played at UIC, but now we've seen it and hopefully it's something that they can continue to do throughout the season.
No, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And just something to build on, especially like against such a good team. I mean, it's one thing to do that against Illinois, Chicago, or South Dakota State if they were in that spot. And I mean I think that's what's interesting is like there was some adversity with some of those games, but I mean they were favored and they just got off to such a great start that it was just different. It wasn't the emotion and against such a good team like what it was. I want to ask you really quick, and I know you touched on this a little bit, but as that development was happening in the 8th inning, Silva comes up to the plate, then he gets the base hit, and then the walk, then the walk, and the walk. How was the energy changing? Was it kind of building on itself at the bird bath as that was happening? Was it just kind of tense the whole time and just excited the whole time? What was it like experiencing that there?
Right. Obviously, the stadium was a little shook after they gave up the lead in the top, right? And then, yeah, it just built, right? You had the couple of singles, I think it was before, and then Silva finally drove it in, like, okay, like, here we go. It started building up with the singles before, right? And then when Silva drove it in, that's when people started to erupt. And then obviously the inning played out as it did and just got crazier and just got crazier. And it was packed today. I don't know what the official numbers, the official attendance was. I think I can actually check right now. 1,070, 100. Wow, I cannot say this number now. 79. 1079 people were there. So it was packed. There was a lot of people. And I noticed that too. Just throughout the game, I was like, yeah, this place is packed out. And, those people that showed up, they got a good game. So the players just delivered in the biggest moments today. And it was so cool. And I'm so glad that there was an attendance over 1K that was there to celebrate them.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing we'll finish up with is my kids are losing patience, and we've already had a few interruptions, but I I love doing this, especially with baseball, just bringing things back. So like the last time that UTSA got off to a 5-0 start was 2013. In 2013, that was I want to say that was the last year that they won a series against DBU. Obviously, they don't play every year. Also in 2013, as I mentioned all the time, that's when UTSA went to a regional by beating DBU uh, in the conference championship. That was the last time DBU didn't go to a regional. And now I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, kind of quiz you. I think see if you can figure this out. Can you tell me the last regular season series loss that UTSA has had?
Last regular season, it was the DBU last year, was it not?
Yeah, yeah, DBU last year. That was the last. That was the last regular
Yep.
season series loss that UTSA has had. Obviously, not the exact same team as last year, but kind of getting that full circle moment. You know, we talked last year. That's when they went on the run. Obviously, this year playing them a little sooner in the season, but just a special weekend and kind of neat to see him rise to the occasion, get the job done in a couple different ways. You know, they started yesterday with the big 6-run lead. They finished yesterday with the big 6-run comeback. And I think it's okay to say that last year they went into DBU and kind of got embarrassed across the weekend. I mean, yeah, they won. They did win the game, but even that one, it was a slugfest, 15-11. And so got outscored, got run ruled, and then you flip the switch almost 12 months later, 11 months later, and yeah, win the series. And so awesome to see.
Yeah, and one thing, my biggest takeaway from this, and I was talking to somebody at the game about this, is this is, and Coach Hallmark won't admit it, but this is a statement win, right? I was talking to somebody and they said that UTSA this year feels like how DBU felt 10 years ago. But UTSA is here now, and they're a premier mid-major baseball team, and they're going to compete with DBU year in and year out. I asked Hallmark, what does it mean? I feel like this is a statement win. He says, I hope we make more statement wins throughout the season. I hope this isn't the last one, but it's a nice series win to get against a good team. To me, man, this game felt like UTSA saying, we are here. We're going to make some noise this year. And, it's a long season, and they've started out hot before and kind of like falling apart as it gone on. But as of right now, I'm seeing a really good team. I can't say it's on the caliber of last year's just yet. Like I said, it's still so early. But from what I'm seeing so far, we're in for a good year of baseball.
Yeah, and they've got. I mean, Hallmark's always gonna have something to say. He's always gonna have a statement like that. I think that's a lot of how he is, and I think that's why he's so successful. We'll talk more in the recap some of the things he's approaching individually for his coaching career at UTSA and some milestones that he's approaching. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I kind of lost my train of thought. That's all right, but I think that's probably a good spot. There's obviously a lot more we could talk about. We'll cover more of that and everything in the recap in tomorrow evening when we record that, and then whenever you're listening to that. But wanted to at least hop on and talk about the series win, especially the way it happened and everything. So I think Rylan, like as soon as you got home, you're like, all right, let's hop on and stuff. So we're trying as best to squeeze it in, no pun intended. But hope y'all enjoyed it, and until next time, birds up.